Hey Merfolk fans, I'm Joe. Thanks very much for joining me. I'm here with this 5th round of the a Modern Competitive League. Excuse me. Currently at 4-0, and we have a rare chance to go 5-0. So hopefully we get good cards. But before I look at the opening hands, I want to provide you guys with a link to my Patreon page. I really appreciate any support you guys are willing to give me. I love making these videos, and I'm happy to do it for free, but I realize there are some of you out there who appreciate my content enough to be willing to donate a buck or two. And with so many of you guys watching, small contributions can really go a long way. So please have a look at the Patreon page, and with that out of the way, let's have a look at the opening hand for this 5th round. So I think I won the first 4 die rolls, but then lost the die roll in this round. This is a sensational opening hand. I've been pretty fortunate in this league with the opening hands. The opponent mulliganed to 6, and we can see what they do with their scry. They put it on top, so not too bad, presumably. Okay, Foothills getting cracked for basic forest into Hierarch. Okay. Island Walk Lord, we really want to hit some more blue mana, but for now we can just go Oboro into Cursecatcher. Arid Mesa. So this might be some other crazy zoo build, I guess. Opponent attacking with Hierarch. That's kind of a newbie move since Harbinger can just bounce that guy. I'm going to go to attacks, I think, with Cursecatcher. Now we're looking out for something like Collected Company next turn. So Cursecatcher could be very valuable. In second main, I'm just going to play the Wanderwine Hub and bounce this Noble Hierarch. Hopefully slow down the opponent's mana. Okay, cracking the Arid Mesa in response for a tap Sacred Foundry. Not that frightening. Do you guys know what we're playing against at this point? Given what you've seen. Now, I guess you've seen the title of the video, so you might know, but I was still in the dark. Okay, here's that Hierarch again, and yeah, looks like we slowed the opponent down quite a bit with that Harbinger last turn. So I have a bunch of choices here. We drew into another blue source, which is pretty great. So let's see. I'm gonna go to combat first and swing with both of my guys. Don't think the opponent's gonna want to block with this Hierarch. And if they have a bolt or something, they could try to go after Harbinger. I'd prefer that over them going for like an Island Walk Lord. So second main phase, I play out a Silvergill. We're still not sure what the opponent is trying to do. It seems like getting more bodies on the board can't really be a bad idea. Kira also potentially pretty awesome. We see red, we see white. We could be in for some lightning bolts or Path to Exiles. Play Minamo and pass the turn back to the opponent. Ugh, Fiery Justice. Who plays this card? So it's Naya to cast, red, green, and white. 5 damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures or players. So extremely efficient. And, wow. I guess it gives me 5 life. So they're dealing 1, 2, and 1, and 1 to my face. Ugh. So a 3 for 1. Did not see that coming. I mean, Kira would have obviously been amazing. This is a sorcery. So if I got to go to my next turn, I would have turned Fiery Justice off for the rest of the game. But I didn't have a chance to get underneath it, and I lost all 3 of my creatures. It was super rough. The opponent doesn't have a land drop for the turn. So for my turn, again, a lot of choices. But it seems like after getting Fiery Justice, that playing Kira would probably be the way to go. Opponent hits this land drop, gets a Plains, cracks another fetch, and we're going to see something here. Wow, okay. So Blood Moon, maybe some of you guys saw that coming. I actually Googled this guy after the match and saw that he has a history of playing these Blood Moon decks. So still don't really know what I'm playing against apart from Blood Moon, but you can see that it's doing quite a decent job against my basic lands. I mean, my non-basic lands, right? These things have all been converted into mountains. So even poor Mutavault can't attack. Ugh. All right, so obviously we only want to draw basic islands from here on out. And it's Scavenging Ooze. Well, Silvergill Adept is good because if I do draw an island, Silvergill Adept can be cast with just 1 blue and hopefully draw me into more basics. Gonna get in with Kira here. Still not sure what I'm playing against. Opponent not making a land drop. Getting in with the Skoos with Exalted. So 3 bringing me back down to 20. Choosing not to eat my graveyard yet. A little bit sketchy. Could represent something. There's that island. So super duper happy to see that. Attack with the Kira. Opponent will go down, I guess, to 8. Follow up with our island. So actually, I guess the correct decision here is to play the Reejerey because I can play the Silvergill next turn and untap my island. Try to get as much value as we can out of the Reejerey. At this point, it looks like the opponent decides to start eating my graveyard. So the Scavenging Ooze is growing, but we've still got such a high life total that that's not really threatening at all. All right, so with Exalted, I'm going to go down to 14, and the opponent just passes the turn. Okay, another Reejerey. That's probably the best possible draw here, because you guys probably know what this means. It means Reejerey madness. So we're going to attack with Kira here. Oh, wait, not attack with Kira yet, sorry. We're going to play the Reejerey first. Untap the island. Getting a second Reejerey on board now will let us play every 2-drop in our hand. So this just got pretty fun. We'll play Silvergill, double target the island. Float mana in between after the first trigger. We'll get to draw a card off Silvergill. Now, drawing another 2-drop would be pretty sick off the Silvergill since we're just in combo mode right now. But we hit an AEther Vial and kind of hit a dead end. So let's make more blue mana. We can start casting our 2-drops with double blue. Remember that this Oboro is a mountain right now, so it doesn't contribute any blue mana for casting these Island Walk Lords. So there's another one. Again, we're going to just float mana. We could tap some of his stuff. But we could play the Spreading Seas, draw a Cursecatcher, and hopefully want to play that, I guess, with the mana that we have. So let's use 1 blue and 1 red to put Spreading Seas on that Plains. Doesn't really matter what we hit at this point. So we really whiffed on our 2 draws that turn. I'm going to go ahead, play the island that I drew. It's a second blue source, which is pretty good. Swing with both of these guys. And the opponent starts tapping some stuff. So I still wasn't sure what I was playing against, but now I am. Restoration Angel rarely shows up without kiki-jiki in store, and seeing all this red mana along with Blood Moon revealed the strategy I was playing against. It's a little bit sad that the opponent's going to get to eat my Kira, but I do have Island Walk online. I'm going to push a little bit of damage, and the opponent is certainly dead on my next attack step if they don't win right now. But being a combo deck, tapping a bunch of stuff. All right, so there's a Court of Calling for 5. We see that they just left Restoration Angel untapped. That doesn't really matter. They could have tapped the Restoration Angel and left Hierarch up, but if they did tap this way, and we had a Cursecatcher on board from last turn, we would have been able to counter it. It's a little interaction that's important to understand how it works. Cursecatcher versus Court of Calling. The opponent can tap creatures to pay for Court of Calling, but they can't tap creatures to pay for Cursecatcher. It's a subtle distinction, but it works. So if the opponent taps all of their mana sources, leaving just creatures up, we can counter Court of Calling. But we don't have a Cursecatcher, and we know what's coming. The opponent's going to grab kiki-jiki and just start going bananas. This was one of the most heartbreaking moments I can remember in recent gameplay. After all of that amazing Reejerey action, after the opponent Blood Mooned us with no basic lands, we clawed our way back into almost certain victory, only to get comboed out at the last moment. So the opponent did a lot of work against us with Fiery Justice, but also I have talked about how terrible Blood Moon is against us in the past, and I stand by that. We play 4 AEther Vials and at least 8 basic lands, so Blood Moon is really poor. The opponent just happened to get 1 turn out of us. There was 1 turn where we attacked with Kira and nothing else, and then we started drawing islands immediately. So the opponent got 1 turn out of us, but as we saw, 1 turn was all it took for the opponent to win. So that doesn't change my approach to playing against Blood Moon. I still think it's much more valuable to keep the 4 Wanderwine Hubs in, even though they're non-basics and get turned into mountains, because they help us turn Island Walk off against the mirror match. And I don't know, I think there's just more Merfolk decks than there are Blood Moon decks. And even when there are Blood Moon decks, as you saw there, I draw 2 basic islands and it really doesn't matter. Or I draw AEther Vial and it really doesn't matter. So for those of you wondering about whether it's risky to play Wanderwine Hub, it's really not. We just happen to lose 1 game based on 1 turn against a combo deck. So don't sweat it. Look away for a second if you don't want to see the match result. I'm going to close the window now. All right, I'm back with game 2. I'm going to be on the play this time. Now, against this deck, really against almost any deck in this position, I guess, I am inclined to keep this. As I mentioned, AEther Vial is sensational against Blood Moon. It basically makes it useless. And Dispel is wonderful against Chord of Calling. It's great against, I guess, Lightning Bolts, other pieces of removal that they might be wanting to play, but really against Chord of Calling. So yeah, I'm going to keep, even though I would prefer for that Mutavault to be a basic island, I guess. Opponent mulligan to 6. Let's see if they put their scry on top or bottom. They put it on the bottom. All right, so looks like we've got a chance here. Play Mutavault into AEther Vial and hope that that does some good work for us. Opponent plays an Arid Mesa and just passes. We'll use Vial and hoping to draw land. Well, all right, we missed for 1 turn, so we'll pass to the opponent. And they crack their Arid Mesa, getting a tapped Sacred Foundry. So then just passing, not a lot of action on the opponent's side of the table. AEther Vial goes up to 2. Spreading Seas seems decent in this matchup, taking them off of some of their many colors. But again, we really just want to draw lands here, so let's go ahead and get the Silvergill out. And maybe we'll draw land this time. 3rd Spreading Seas. Well, at least we know we can loot 1 or 2 of those away if we ever get the Smuggler's Copter onto the table. Now, this is what can happen if you keep a 1-land hand, guys, right? I mean, you just draw into 4 Spreading Seas, or 3 Spreading Seas. So here's an Eternal Witness. The opponent really only has lands to get back at this point. So they do get a land. I'm going to leave AEther Vial on 2, and there is finally a Wanderwine Hub. So I'll play that and reveal one of my Island Walk Lords. And I think there's pretty much... let's see. I'll go to attacks first. The opponent's probably not going to block just because they need bodies for Chord of Calling. We can wait until their end step to bring in Lord of Atlantis, play around Fiery Justice, which, important to note, is not a valid target for Dispel since it's a sorcery. So I'll go ahead and put out Smuggler's Copter. Hopefully we can start getting in with that next turn and loot away some of these Spreading Seas. Draw into more gas that we can put into the battlefield with AEther Vial. So it looks like the opponent, having found some success with Blood Moon in the first game, kept in that effect for games 2 and 3, or at least game 2. I don't know if they'll go for it in game 3. But they should be realizing by now how poor Blood Moon effects are against us. So this guy's going to resolve. Opponent wisely not getting in with Eternal Witness because I would have brought in an Island Walk Lord and eaten the Eternal Witness with Smuggler's Copter and got a free loot out of the equation. So, all right, there's a basic island. Going to make him feel even worse about playing Magus of the Moon. We'll go ahead and put in a Summoning Sick Island Walk Lord that we will use to crew up the Copter. And I think we just get in with everybody here. If he wants to double block an Island Walk Lord, it seems pretty good to me, actually. So we drew a Silvergill Adept on the loot, which is really, really excellent. We want to replace these Spreading Seas. The opponent does go with the double block. So I don't know, they're feeling, I guess, that their back is up against the wall. And now, actually, the Blood Moon effect is gone, and we have access again to all of our blue mana. So we can use the... Let's see, Spreading Seas like that, and we drew a Dismember. Now, we could have tapped better there. If the opponent is playing Blood Moon, and they played it, then that would have taken us off of Dispel for the turn. But we drew into a Dismember, so we can use colorless mana, and as it stands, he doesn't have a Blood Moon effect out, so we do have access to the blue mana. If he wants to cast an instant on his own turn, I'm not sure why he would do that. So Fiery Justice, again, nothing we can do about it, but we've got another body in hand. So that is going to resolve. That card is pretty solid against Merfolk, I have to say. The fact that it can distribute 5 damage can really have a strong sort of cascading effect against us. If, say, we have 2 Lords and a Silvergill, he could deal 3 damage to a Lord, 2 damage to a Lord, and then 1 damage to the Silvergill, and all 3 creatures would get wiped away. So even through 2 Lords, could pretty much blow us out. I'm going to leave it on 2, obviously. And we drew another Island Walk Lord, so things going very well for us. I think we're just going to put in Silvergill to draw a card. We drew another basic. Now, I could have put in the Island Walk Lord, activated Mutavault, swung for 6, and just won this turn. I guess this is the more conservative approach. I'm going to have 2 mana next turn, 2 basic islands with Dispel and Dismember up. So what did we loot that turn? It looks like I looted away a second Smuggler's Copter. So play our island and pass, and there's really very little the opponent could do there. We do have a Mutavault. We still have Smuggler's Copter on the board. Even though I could have done lethal that turn, it's pretty much the same. So it's all tied up 1-1. Remember that we're sitting at 4-0, and this is a rare opportunity to potentially go 5-0 in a modern competitive league. So please look away for a moment. I'm going to click out of this window if you don't want to see the match result. Here we go. All right, I'm back with the final game. The opponent's going to be on the play this time. And unfortunately, we have to mulligan in this really important game. I still haven't gone 5-0 in any competitive modern leagues, so I was really bummed that I had to mulligan. The opponent kept his 7, but we got a decent 6, so I'll keep this, and we'll definitely keep that on the top. Having a 3-drop and a 4-drop in our hand, we want lands. So Wanderwine into Cursecatcher, Birds of Paradise, and hopefully no land drop. Well, there's a land drop, so not as good as it could have been. Note that we do have Echoing Truth in our opening 6, so we're going to get some value out of bouncing these Birds of Paradise. We just have to do it carefully. So for the turn, we draw another land. Not really what we want on this mulligan to 6. We can play an island, basic island, and just get in for 1 here. Now, I'm going to go all the way to the end step. The opponent is absolutely going to crack this Arid Mesa. I mean, in theory, he could choose to not do it if he really wanted to draw lands, but he's got his ramp going with Birds of Paradise. So he's going to take the opportunity to crack the Arid Mesa. I'm going to let him do that. I'm going to pass priority in my end step to the opponent. Potentially miss the window if he passes priority back to bounce the birds on my own turn. But I want to see what land he gets. So he cracks the Arid Mesa. Now, imagine that he got a non-green source, like if he got a Sacred Foundry, then he could potentially only play out 1 birds next turn. If I bounce the birds before this, then he knows for a fact that he wants to go and get a second green source. I'm not sure if that all made sense, but there was a rationale behind letting the opponent fetch first. So Echoing Truth, the Birds of Paradise, hopefully setting the opponent back at least a turn. All right, plays a basic forest, replays the birds, and that looks like the turn I was hoping for. So we'll get in with Cursecatcher again, really slow and steady damage. And at this point, we'll play another island and to get another basic on the board and get Kira out. Kira, you guys know, works really, really well with Master of Waves, not just because she protects him, but because she provides all that devotion. I didn't play Mutavault last turn because I'm almost certainly just going to play Master of Waves next turn. So the Mutavault won't really matter anyway. So Avalanche Riders, interesting choice in the opponent's deck. I don't know if it's sideboard tech or what, but he's going to hit my Wanderwine Hub. That makes me think even more that they probably learned that they should take out their Blood Moon effects against me. Otherwise, they probably would have hit one of my islands. Remember, Avalanche Riders just destroys target land. So land down, that means Master of Waves is not going to get to be played. We fortunately drew a card that we can play this turn. So now I'll play the Mutavault, cast Spreading Seas on his red source, I guess, even though the birds can provide red. Another island. Happy to draw through that land, though. We'll swing in the air with Kira. Again, just slowly dealing damage. The opponent has to make a decision right now as to whether they want to pay the Echo cost and keep Avalanche Riders around. Now, remember that with Chord of Calling in the deck, they typically want access to as many bodies as they can keep to cast large Chord of Callings. I do have a Cursecatcher on board to potentially counter a large Chord, so the opponent might be inclined to keep this guy, even though it's a really steep Echo cost. He has to tap 4 mana. Tapping like this could also represent that he doesn't have a lot of great stuff in hand, but he looks like he does want to keep that 2/2 on board. So Dismember is super excellent. Can't think of really a better draw at this point. I'm sorry, let me pause here and look at the sideboard. This is something that I discovered recently that I can show you guys this. So I'm still getting used to the routine of opening this in games 2 and 3. So for games 2 and 3, I took out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards. So, and I brought in my 2 Dispels. Looks like I brought in 2 of my 4 Negates and 2 Dismembers. So I've got 3 Dismembers and then 4 counter spells to try to hit Chord of Calling when the opponent goes for it. I took out 1 Cursecatcher because they can be a little less useful as the games go longer and the opponent has a ton of mana. Took out 1 Master of Waves. If they have removal, they could include Path. So Master of Waves, potentially weak to the removal that they might play. But Master of Waves definitely great in the matchup, I think. But we needed to cut something somewhere. I cut 1 Kira because being a combo deck, they can't play a ton of removal. I was fortunate enough to draw my 1 Kira in this game. And Reejerey, we don't really need his tapping and untapping stuff in this matchup. So, yep, we took out 6 creatures. Wait, 6 creatures? Yeah, 6 creatures. And we brought in 4 counterspells and 2 Dismembers. So pretty solid sideboard against the deck. I'm going to go to attacks. Now, this is potentially unadvisable because the opponent has white mana up with 2 mana, and they could be playing Blessed Alliance out of the sideboard. And you never want to attack with Kira as the only attacker if you see that particular combination of mana up, especially in games 2 and 3 when the opponent has access to their sideboard. I think I was fortunate enough to dodge it this time. So opponent's already down to 11, and I'm just going to slam dunk this Master of Waves here. Opponent has no combo pieces out yet. So he's going for Eldritch Evolution. So I had to pause here and think about how to respond to this spell. They sacked a 4-drop, which means that they can get up to a 6-drop. So because X, where they get the creature, is equal to Avalanche Riders 4 mana plus 2. Now they're probably going to go get kiki-jiki, right? That guy has haste, so if he gets kiki-jiki, he can copy a Birds of Paradise and have access to 4 mana. Which could then let him cast Restoration Angel, which could blink the tapped kiki-jiki, and this start the whole combo up. So it seemed wise to me to sacrifice the Cursecatcher here. It's possible the opponent has a land drop to make, but we just reduce the likelihood that he can combo off this turn by forcing the opponent to pay 1 mana for Cursecatcher to resolve Eldritch Evolution. In the event that they have another land drop to make, they can still get kiki-jiki, still copy a Birds of Paradise, still produce 4 mana this turn, which is a little bit frightening. It's just very frightening. Instead, they just tap 1 Birds of Paradise to cast another Birds of Paradise. Looks like they didn't have the land drop and so can't get the Angel out this turn. Okay. So there's another Cursecatcher for the turn. Just treading very, very carefully here, I'm going to play the Wanderwine Hub, reveal the Cursecatcher, and then cast the Cursecatcher. Give us a little bit of protection, whatever protection we can get against Chord of Calling. And here we'll dismember the kiki-jiki, who can tap to make another blocker out of the Birds of Paradise. But we've got a ton of pressure here, and we're going to do a lot of damage to the opponent. We're swinging for, I think 10 plus 7, 17, and he's got 3 blockers up. I think he has to block 2 creatures. Maybe he has to block 3. Let's see. If he blocks 2, he's taking 12, right? So he needs to block all 3. With all 3. He's going to take 10, go all the way down to 1. We're sitting back with a Cursecatcher. He's got no Angel. He's got no Kiki. I'm feeling pretty excited at this point. Opponent's going to pass the turn, forcing us to go to our final attack. Just in case the opponent plays some kind of instant speed first strike effect. Now remember, we do have Kira protecting our guys from spot removal. I'm going to hold Kira back, and I'm going to hold Master of Waves back. We just need to get 1 body through here. So probably being more cautious than I need to. Opponent probably has an Angel in hand, but realize that they can't block 7 creatures. So we did it. I finally got a 5-0 in competitive Modern League. I think my hands were shaking at the point when this game ended. I was a little bit upset that I had to mulligan in this last game, and also just upset after losing the first game, despite all of those crazy Reejerey untaps and taps, getting all those lords onto the table. But in the end, we showed how resilient Merfolk can be, and yeah, got the 5-0 result that I've been trying to get for a long time. The deck has been feeling excellent lately. The sideboard feels super balanced against the very sort of diverse metagame. I mean, just in this league alone, we saw a lot of different types of decks. We saw, I think, Merfolk, Blue-White Control, Eldrazi and Taxes, Domain Zoo, and now Kiki Moon combo. So a ton of different decks. We were able to get there against all of them. Please let me know your guys' thoughts on the league, on this particular match, on the Kiki Moon deck, which you don't really see that often, but it's pretty sweet. I'm going to take a second and give you guys the link to my Patreon page again here. If you feel like donating $1 or $2, I really, really appreciate your generosity. It takes a lot of time and effort to make these videos, but I really love it. I love all the conversation that the videos spark with you guys. So money or no money, I'm going to keep making these videos. But if you do feel inclined, here's the link to the Patreon page. Yeah, subscribe if you haven't already, and tune in for the next video where I'll probably be back with another competitive Modern League. Thanks as always, guys, and I'll see you soon. Bye.